Hi, everyone. This is Mike Bernard. Glad to be with you here again for another episode of Mic'd Up. Um, the thing that I want to talk to today is about our rates and rules report that we actually produce here at Vertex. We produce a report that looks at the first 6 months of 2025 versus 2024. And then at the end of the year in January, we'll also be back on another episode here to talk about what happened for the entire calendar year. And normally we have about a 10-year look back as well when we look at what's going on as it relates to both state and local sales tax rates. So let me get to the big numbers first, and then I'll drill down a little bit about what's going on the first 6 months of 2025. So first and foremost, there are over 12,000 jurisdictions here in the United States that actually impose a sales tax. So obviously 45 states plus the District of Columbia. On top of that, there are 7,000 cities, there are 2,000 counties, and then there are 3,000 districts. Again, remember when we refer to districts, we're always talking about park or police districts or road districts, water treatment plants, those kinds of things. So significant granularity in that area. One of the other things too that we've seen since 2015 is that every year there seems to be about 600 updates to these jurisdictions, either new ones coming on board or rates that are changing. So about 5 to 6 to 7% of what's happening in to those 12,000 jurisdictions are some changes. So the only change, so a couple of changes as it relates to the first 6 months of 2025. There was only one state that actually increased its sales tax. That was Louisiana. The second thing I want to mention is that the number of districts that actually came on board, so these are new districts that impose sales taxes, was up 82% for the first 6 months of 2025 versus 2024. So almost 140 districts that instituted a new sales tax versus 80 that did so at the same time last year. The other thing too was that there were twice as many new cities that actually instituted a sales tax this year, 60 versus 30 at the same time. So some significant changes in that area. And one thing I think you just want to remember is that sales tax tends to be one of the pillars, at least at the local level, for funding besides property taxes. So you're going to continue to see new jurisdictions come on board and probably rates going to increase, at least in the near term. There's two other things that I want to mention that are really important as it relates to sales tax. First and foremost, I think a lot of you know that property taxes have gone about as high as they've ever been here in the United States, given the rise of the average home price. And so, one thing that we're seeing more and more in some states is trying to limit those property tax increases. If that does happen, I think one of the things you're going to see is that local sales tax rates will have to be increased to make up that shortfall in that funding for property tax. That's the first thing. The second thing is, most of you know, there was a new federal legislation that was passed, a tax bill just recently here. And one of the things that that bill does, it calls out for significant cuts in both Medicaid and the SNAP program at the state and local level. So if states want to continue the same eligibility requirements beginning in January of 2026 as they had under the old act, they will have to increase their sales taxes anywhere from, say, around 0.8% to either 1 or 2%. So there are some significant decisions, policy decisions, that they're going to have to make both at the state houses and at the governorships here in the state and local levels. So with all of that, I think you're going to continue to see these continued dynamic changes in the sales and use tax rate, and we'll continue to bring you these changes as they occur. And now with all of that, you're all mic'd up.